I grew up in northern North Dakota. Worked on a farm. My dad owned a farm up there, and in 1964, I was drafted, and always felt that it was my duty to serve as a conscientious American citizen. So I reported for duty in a snowstorm out in North Dakota, even though I'd been living in Minnesota for quite a while. And they said, "What are you doing here?" They said, "We aren't going to send anybody today." And so I went home and reported the following month in January. And that happened to be the month that Lyndon Johnson, I think, ordered the start of the Vietnam War, the buildup in Vietnam. And I went to basic training down in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. From there I went to advanced training as a clerk typist. So I didn't really have any combat skills, but after getting out of that school, I went to as permanent party in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and didn't have a car, didn't know anybody. And then they started calling for people to fill up other units that were being transferred over to Vietnam. And the first time my sergeant called me in, and they had an order to fill up I think it was the 5th Infantry Division. No, the 1st Infantry Division. And he said, "You don't have to go." He said, I'll make sure you don't have to go, because they're calling, you're an E1, private E1, and they're calling for specialist E5s to fill up the division. And I said, "Well, I don't really know anybody. I'm going to get called sooner or later, and then I probably won't have a decision to make on where I'm going." And so I volunteered to go to the 1st Infantry Division, and spent the summer of '64 helping to reassign people, because I ended up being, instead of a clerk typist, a personnel management specialist, and worked with a group of people that basically from dawn to dusk, we were reassigning people to fill up the division. And then, kind of unusual, we transferred over there as a division. So our unit took a train out to Oakland, got on a troop transport ship, and spent 3 weeks going over to Vietnam. And we landed at Vung Tau in South Vietnam, and then we were in a staging area for several weeks. Don't know exactly how long. Some of these things fade from memory, but they would truck us every day over to the area that had been designated as our headquarters, division headquarters site. And then 1st Admin Company had a location there, and we worked in there clearing bamboo and digging foxholes, filling sandbags, building bunkers, and things like that. So my time was kind of mundane jobs. I did end up working, by the time they got buildings built, I was mainly in charge of rejecting requests for transfer. So I had plenty of work to do, because nobody wanted, most of those requests came from people that were in infantry units, and even though I didn't see a lot of action, because the only thing that we had to do of a combat nature was to do some night ambush patrols, and they became less frequent as the longer we stayed there, and so I was doing those like once a month. In 1966, they came out with an order that we found out about. Since I was in personnel, that word got passed around pretty easily, that if you had less than 90 days of service left when you got back to the States, they would let you go and they wouldn't reassign you anyplace. So what I did was I extended for an additional 30 days. So I spent 13 months over in Vietnam, and I came back with exactly that many days left, and was discharged from the Army. And when I got home, I reported for National Guard duty, because I had some responsibility there yet, and they said, "You guys that have been over in Vietnam, we don't even worry about you. Consider yourself done." And I do have a thumb drive with probably about 100 pictures on it that represent not only the people that I served with over there, you know, it shows some of the camp life, but I also, I ended up, one of my duties was for a short period of time to ride shotgun in an old French dump truck driven by a Vietnamese driver back and forth between our base camp, which was about 20 kilometers northwest of Saigon, into Saigon, hauling dirt. And I don't, you know, he couldn't have hauled more than like 3 or 4 wheelbarrow loads of dirt in that truck, but then I took pictures along the way.